Okay, continue. CF number 8. If the invalidation was discovered in the middle of the Torah reading, there is why in the middle of the Aliyah. Okay, that's interesting. Regarding this, there is a various opinion and customs. And each place should uphold its custom. So meaning in the middle of the Aliyah, okay. However, in a place where there is no set custom, it seems to me that one should do as written in Shulchan Aruch, that one does not recite the blessing over the invalid Sefer Torah. So commentary. See, however, Mishnah Brura 143:23, who rules that if they had already read 3 verses, right, and the invalidation is not noticed at the point where they could stop, they should do so, and the blessing should be recited. So basically, so Mishnah Brura says, if they already read the 3 verses, so let him do the blessing afterwards. Okay. Okay, continue. So basically, so he said that do as Shulchan Aruch says, that one does not recite blessing over the invalid Torah, it's a Sefer Torah. But we said if he already read 3 blessings, 3 psukim, so it's like an aliyah, minimum requirement for aliyah, so let him just say the blessing. Rather, they stop the reading immediately and take another Sefer Torah. So it's like when it's in the middle of the aliyah, and resume reading from the place where they had stopped in the first Sefer Torah. Okay, so I mean, very straightforward way. Right, so if there's no different custom, so they stop whenever they found an error. So from the second Sefer Torah, they start from the sentence where they had this error. Okay. If they stop in the middle of the verse, it seemed to me that they should resume from the beginning of the verse, which is logically makes sense, right? And they should finish the day's portion. Day's portion, what does it mean? Commentary. They resume the reading until the end of the day's portion. They're not required to repeat that which they read from the invalid Sefer Torah. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, whatever was read before, we just leave it alone, and we take another Sefer Torah. Okay. It would seem that the reader should always read for the Oleh in the valid Sefer Torah a minimum of 3 verses. Okay, so commentary, Oleh who had been called upon when invalidation was found. So basically, so this guy is standing there, and they found an error, right? So we don't call another person. So we still have this person in whose aliyah it was an error. So and we're going to read for him another 3 verses. If there are no longer 3 verses before the end of the day's portion, that's an issue. Right? So I think we should go back. That's what do we do. They should begin reading a bit earlier. Exactly. So just add from what we said before. Commentary. In order to be reading the Sefer Torah, second Sefer Torah, to be significant enough to warrant that as a blessing to be recited, it should include at least 3 verses. Okay. So meaning if let's say two verses left until the end of the day's portion, so they would go back 1 more verse and say read this 3 verses, and he would be able to say the closing blessing on the Sefer Torah. The Leh should recite the final blessing over the second Sefer Torah, exactly, right? But he should not recite the first blessing. For the first blessing that he recited over the invalid Sefer Torah was accredited to him. So basically, he said already on blessing on that Sefer Torah, and when they start reading, I mean, everything was kosher, right? Later on, they found an issue, but so basically, he said only the concluding blessing on a second Sefer Torah. On the first, he said the first blessing, and on the second, he says concluding commentary. As explained in notes 40, since some authorities maintain that absolute invalidation do not render the Sefer Torah unfit for to read from, right? So I mean this very lenient opinion. The reading that has already been done is not disqualified. So I mean that's this lenient opinion helps very much, basically, right? Similarly, the blessing need not to be repeated, even though we don't follow that lenient opinion, but in some sense we can use some leniencies. Continue. Obviously, if they could call upon the 7 Olim to read in the valid Sefer Torah, they should do so. I mean, Tircha de Tzibur, right? It's too much pressure on the public. Also, we cannot do. I mean, if we can just finish reading and Shabbos is long as it is, right? And if they're going to add another, let's say they discover it's after the 4th Aliyah, so now it's a little too much, basically. For other people. If we have a more lenient opinion and would allow us to just continue, basically. This is the law, even if they had not begun to read at all before this Oleh. As the invalidation was discovered, immediately after the first blessing was recited. Even so, they take out another Sefer Torah, and he does not repeat the first blessing. Okay, so they found it in the beginning. So commentaries say, even though they did not read at all from the Sefer Torah, over which he recited the blessing, he should not repeat the blessing. So even though, they did not read, he said the blessing and they did discover it right away. Well, let's say it was in the same column. He saw the error. Okay. So even though they did not read from this first Sefer Torah, so this blessing continued to the second one, his blessing. One should not distinguish between the final aliyah and other aliyahs in regard to this matter. What does it mean? Commentary. Although some authorities maintain that if the invalidation was discovered during the final reading, that is while the last required oleh has been called upon, they should not bring another Sefer Torah. So that's the very interesting opinion. So they say if it's a last guy, so let them just finish. Siman Kitzur rules that there should not be differentiation. So even though it's last person anyway, so according to the Kitzur, bring second Sefer Torah. This refers to the 7th Aliyah, not a maftir. See the next note. Okay, so basically, what we do, we call 7 people, right? Regular Sefer Torah, and then maftir. So maftir is actually a repetition, partial repetition of the last aliyah, right? So it's actually number 8, and this guy is going to read from the prophets, right? So we're talking about 7th aliyah. Not the 8th one. So one more time the whole sentence, right? So Kitzur said one should not distinguish between the final aliyah, so meaning this number 7, let's say, and other aliyahs in regard to this matter. So basically we explained that there is opinion that if it's a last aliyah, just let it go. Kitzur show no, we're not going to let it go. So even if at 4 verses left until the end of the aliyah, we still go and bring the whole Sefer Torah, the second Sefer Torah. If the invalidation was discovered during the maftir, however, see below 78.8. Interesting. So commentary says, so maftir basically they completed the 7 aliyahs. So basically, the way I see it, right? So they did not see somehow that doesn't matter how they did not see the issue in guy number 7, right? But they discover in an extra person. So after the fact, maybe there is no problem after the fact, but let's see. Their Kitzur rule that on a regular Shabbos, when the maftir is simply a repetition of the final section of the day's portion, one is not required to take out a new Sefer Torah. Okay. If an invalidation is noticed during the maftir, so not during Aliyah, it's said, but maftir, as we said, the maftir is extra. However, on the days require the additional portion to be read for the maftir. For example, Parashat Zachor, that's a different issue. Right? They say some say it's a biblical obligation, right? Or on the Shabbos, or there is Rosh Chodesh. That's also a different thing. It is if an invalidation was discovered, they must take another Sefer Torah for the maftir. So basically, when we read this addition for Rosh Chodesh, it's always from second Sefer Torah. It's not from the same. I mean, if they have only one, that's a different story. But if they have two, usually people have two, so they would read from the second Sefer Torah. So in this case, they said no, you have to go and get another Sefer Torah to complete this Rosh Chodesh reading.